Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of The Powerful Man Show. I am your host, Doug Holt, with my co-host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. What's going down, brother?
The sun's setting.
Going down.
Looking at it's gorgeous. Yeah, I just love the silence of it all. It's so relaxing.
I love the sunset. And we used to have one of our coaches used to always say, as the sun sets, the sun will also rise, and so will I. He was talking about dark times in his life that he had. Is he just had to remember one positive thing: the sun will rise, and so will I. I think about that often.
Yes,
Well, that's not what we're going to talk about today. Tim, you and I were talking about geopolitics and the economics and psychology of politicians before we hit record. And I'm going to completely switch that, but you'll kind of understand why. What I want to talk about today is your 2AM friends, right? Your 2AM friends. So what are they? What are your 2AM friends? So your 2AM friends are those guys that at 2 a.m, when you're going through your darkest tunnels, your business is crumbling, your relationship's crumbling, your health is crap. These are the guys that you can pick up the phone, shoot a text message or a phone call, and they'll be there for you, no matter what. 2AM friends are those guys that you have, and you may have one, maybe you have none, maybe you have a couple. Usually it's only a handful of guys that when your marriage breaks up, they don't just go with your wife, right? Because their wife does. They stick by your side. They've got your back. No matter what. They're looking out for your best interests. The 2AM guys, the way I describe them, Tim, these are the guys that are going to take care of your wife and your kids when you're gone, if you meet an early demise. And most men don't have a 2AM friend, right? So what I like to think about this as, and the analogy that I heard, and I got this from, it was Mel Robbins, I believe, but think of your friends as a tree, right? You're the actual tree itself. And some friends are leaves. Now, leaves come and go. They change with the seasons. They often fall off and die. And there's nothing wrong with that because a rebirth happens and new leaves or new friends come into your world. And that happens with a lot of us, right? You're out, you're playing sports, you're at the gym, you meet somebody, you're great, you get some beers, what have you. But, a couple months from now, next year, you won't see them again. They've moved. You just don't keep in touch, right? Maybe Facebook friends. Those are your leaves. Next on the tree, you have your branches. Now, your branches are sturdier, right? These are people that have been in your world for a little while. If you have kids, they're probably parents, maybe that have kids your same age, maybe your wife's friends, maybe it's friends you've known for years and you hang out with, right? And it could be friends from distant past, but you don't call them at 2 a.m. They don't know the problems that you're having, right? The deep thoughts you're having. They don't know if your wife's cheated or if you've cheated on your wife or anything like that. They just don't know. They're branches and they're great. But like leaves, branches can also break and come down and the tree's still healthy, right? Branches last through the winters. They last through the falls, the springs, the changing of the seasons. And branches are amazing. And you have a lot of branches and those are great as well. Then you have your 2AM friends. That's the roots of the tree. They keep you stable. Now, your 2AM friends can come and go too, right? Often we'll have 2AM friends with seasons, right? We may have somebody that we can call at 2 a.m. and over time, they've grown, you've grown apart, and that can happen too. But the important concept here is, who are your 2AM friends? And what I like about this more so, Tim, is are you being a 2AM friend to somebody else? Are you being that person, that man, to somebody else? We had this conversation. I did a post and I threw it up in the Brotherhood, as you know, Tim. Brotherhood, or actually it was a general for all our alumni. And the men in the Brotherhood jumped on it right away, as they tend to do. The Brotherhood is one of our high-end mastermind groups where guys pay upwards of $30K to be with us for a year of continuous growth and coaching. But more importantly, these guys over time, these men have become 2AM friends with each other, right? They're there for each other, supporting each other. And the outpouring, it almost brought tears to my eyes to see Lee Jack, Sanj, all of these guys coming in saying, look, if you ever need somebody, call me. My phone is always open to anybody involved in the movement. What our advisors stepped in there. Our advisors are guys that get on the phone calls with men who are interested in learning about our programs, interested in making a big change in their relationship and their lives. And our advisors are actively involved. And they were telling the other guys who are already alumni, right? So there's nothing they can get from these guys, so to speak. They're just like, hey, if you need me, I'm here for you. Here's my number. Call me anytime. And are you being a 2AM friend, right? Not only do you have them, and if you do, that's great. And we'll get into a little bit deeper about crafting your 2AM friends, because sometimes you need to prune that tree, right? In order for a tree to grow, to plant deeper roots, what do? We prune not only the leaves, but we prune some of the branches and sometimes the roots to make sure that tree is extra healthy, to make sure that tree can grow and flourish and come through. And so maybe this is time for you guys to prune some of your branches, right? We'll talk about that in a little bit, Tim, as well, going through. But what I like and what I like you guys to get out of this, as we talk about pruning the tree and the tree growing and flourishing, is, are you being the 2AM friend that you're looking for?
Great question. What does that mean to you?
That means, that's a good question. I haven't thought that.
It's interesting, isn't it? Like, what does it mean to be a 2AM? I'd say I am. Like, but it's kind of like an assumption, right? It's kind of like an assumption in any relationship. You just assume certain things. It's like an unwritten rule. But if you've never either had the conversation, which this might not be the kind of conversation you may have, but I'll think of Youre and I. If we don't have a conversation about something, it remains an assumption. Often we can kind of go a little bit amiss. So, in 2AM friends, if I think, yeah, I'm a 2AM friend to that guy, but then if I don't even know what it would mean to him, or even taking the time to really drill down, okay, but what does that mean? And maybe the way to answer that question for me would be, okay, well, what would I want to see from him? Yeah. From my 2AM friends, what would I desire or expect? And then obviously I can give that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So like I said, I haven't thought of it before, but what immediately comes to mind for me of how I know I'm a 2AM friend is I listen without judgment. So you and I were talking geopolitics before we hit record. And I had a phone call this morning where I was talking to one of my 2AM friends, which, Tim, you're one of my 2AM friends, right? Yeah. It's easier with the time zone difference, but but you truly are. But I was talking to him, and we had completely opposite political beliefs. But I don't judge him for that. I'll give him a hard time for it because that's just what I do with people I care about. But I don't judge him. He also, when he and his wife were going through a horrible time where one person had an affair and there were all of these things going, money missing, and these huge things were happening in his life, I was there for him. And not only was I there for him, but I was checking in on him regularly, right? Before he called me at 2 a.m., after I knew what was going on, I would call him. I'd send him a message, a text. Hey, bro, no need to call me back. Just thinking of you, man. Hope you're doing well. Just little things like that. Hey, man, keep your head up. I know this is friggin' tough, but you're strong. Just little things to let him know that I was still there, right? I was still in his world. I was still really willing to be here. Because I think it's easy to be a friend when it's convenient for you. Easy to be a 2 a.m. friend when somebody comes and says, my house is on fire, I need help. Cool. I'll strap on my cape and I'll go help you. But are you being attuned to the little things, right? You and I often talk, Tim, you and I connect, and I'll use this as the 2 a.m. friend example. I don't want to bore the guys, but we talk openly about pretty much everything. And it's always, hey man, if you got stuff going on, I'll take it off your plate. I got you. And we do it in regards to the movement, right? Because that's something that's you and I, that's our passion, is helping these guys. It's our legacy. But we'll also talk about Amelia or my wife, Erin, or our kids. Or you'll ask how Bodhi's ear infection is, or things like that. We'll also look at each other like, hey, you need to take more time off. You need more rest. You need to fill your cup. We talk like as if we're almost like brothers. I guess brothers is the 2 a.m. friend ideal for me. And when I look at brothers, is some you're born with. I have 2 amazing biological brothers. But then I have a guy like you who's my chosen brother. So when I choose that I would go to battle with, right, so to speak, or or more likely, I'd rather go have fun with, right? Go to Morocco like you and I did, and go out into the desert, right, in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the desert, and look at amazing stars and chill. I also think a 2AM friend is somebody, this is something when you and I first met years ago. One of the things that you had done is you pruned your branches, so to speak, and cleaned out your friends list because you wanted to make sure that the people you were friends with were people you didn't have to go do drugs, drinking, or any kind of sedation with. You had to have a real connection, right? That's important to me too, right? That's important. And it doesn't mean I won't want to go out and have a beer, nor do you, but you want to have that ability not to have to, right? I call a lot of those friends, for guys that are listening to this, I call them, remember when friends, right? These are guys that you go to the bar and you're like, remember when we were in high school? Remember when we were playing football? Remember when, you did this with Sally? Remember when? Because there's no present moment. There's no future. You're not building new memories. You're remembering distant past memories. And then all you have is history. To me, those are leaves, or they're branches. And some of those become your 2AM friends because you have such deep history with them. You know where they grew up. You went to their parents' house. You had, candies. You trick-or-treated with them on Halloween in the States or whatever it is, right? So you have that history, but there's no presence there. And those are sometimes the 2AM friends that can be cut off. Those are big branches that may need to be cut because they're rotting, right? Those people aren't growing, or they're preventing you from growing in the way that you need to grow.
Do you know what's interesting? It reminds me of one of the guys on our team. He was saying last week how he chose to cut a certain friend out of his life because he was on a certain path and he had done something that this particular guy didn't agree with. And it didn't sit well with him. The fact that just kind of pruned the branch, if you will, and chopped it off. So what he did was he went to the friend and had a clearing conversation. And what's interesting about this is I wonder how many friends could become, or might even want to be, 2AM friends. And all it might take is a clearing conversation. And before you know it, they're a 2AM friend.
I think more often than not, Tim. I also think you kind of I do believe you have a limit of 2AM friends you could actually have, right? I'm not saying it has to be 2 or 3, but there's a limit there. Because you just will have that real connection. You need to spend time. You need to invest. It's like a bank, right? The whole piggy bank analogy with relationships. Are you putting deposits, or are you constantly doing withdrawals, right? And most guys withdraw. They call their friends when they need something, want something, right? Just what guys do. And we can't have those deep conversations sometimes unless we've had a few drinks or whatever it may be. But yeah, I think, giving men the opportunity to step in to the 2AM friend is huge. I know for me, it was nerve-wracking when I started putting myself out there and just sharing the things that I've learned along my journey, right? Because you know how much crap I talk. I talk a lot to my friends, and I talk a lot of trash. And so what's been interesting is in the past years, there's been people that I didn't know were following in the shadows, just watching and kind of lurking. It just wasn't the right time for them to be on the journey, right? And they've come back into my life. We've had history, right? But they were in quiet desperation. Quietly, they were suffering. And that's why we often talk about, sometimes we put posts out there, what have you, is one way to form more of these, turn leaves into branches or get more leaves and then turn them maybe into roots is by sharing things like this conversation. Take this podcast, take this show on YouTube, share a link with a buddy and go, dude, tell me what you think, right? Just let them know you care. Because odds are, in my experience, Tim, in talking to all the men we work with, but in talking to men just in general, most men, as we age, we lose friends because we lose opportunities to make new friends. We're no longer at university. A lot of us, especially with COVID, aren't in big office buildings, right? Proximity is typically how we meet people and become friends. Same thing with your wife. My guess is your wife, you went to school with her or you worked with her, right? Or she was somewhere in your barbecue circle, right? Typically, unless you're online dating. Same thing with friends. But sharing something like this, like, hey, bro, just thinking of you, man. Love to hear what you think about this idea of 2 a.m. friends. And if you want to put yourself out there, right? Courageously go, where do I fall on your tree for you? Are you my leaf, my branch, my root? No judgment. Or tell them like, hey man, I just want to let you know you're a branch and I want to make that branch bigger. Let's go out and go for a hike, whatever it is for you. And just let them know. But sharing this level of conversation is how you deepen those relationships. Because I think most men, not you that's listening to this, but all the other guys, they're too scared to put themselves out there. They're too scared to be like, what are they going to think of me? Are they going to think I'm, trying to date them? Are they going to think I'm weird? Or they, do they not like me? All of these things that can come out that prevent men from talking openly to other guys. Or are they going to judge me? Are they going to think I'm less than because, I've got a problem in my business? Guess what? If you're a business owner, you got a problem in your business. We all do, right? It's like the nature of business. Like everybody does. If you're married, guess what? You have arguments with your wife. Guarantee it. If you don't, you got a bigger problem, right? Mm-hmm. So men just don't talk about these things. So are you being a 2 a.m. friend? Are you putting deposits in that emotional piggy bank? And if you're not being one, then don't expect to have one.
Good point.
You're not being the 2 a.m. friend that you want, right? So when you're lonely, depressed, sitting in your basement, or sitting in your chair or in your car, and you're sad and no one's calling you, so it's making you sadder. No one's commenting on your desperate Facebook post or whatever it is. That's probably because you haven't made the deposits into the emotional piggy bank of the relationships of your life. Tim, I can guarantee, knowing you the way I know you, that if you're going through a hard time, I can have a laundry list of men, quality guys that would step up and be there for you. There's also some guys that have questionable quality in my mind that would also be there for you. And that's cool. They're on their own path. But you have purposefully forged these relationships deliberately. I would say forged some of these relationships to have really quality guys in your corner. And one of the excuses I hear, I know I'm going on a rant, but for men is, there's nobody in my area. I hear this all the time. There's nobody near me that, that shares these values, right? And I just had a conversation with a guy a couple of weeks ago. I talked about it in the podcast, I think. And he was telling me this. And I was like, do you share this with anybody? The fact that you like yoga, meditation, but you're still a manly guy. He's like, no, I don't talk to anybody because nobody would understand. How do you know? Also, guys, Tim is one of my 2 a.m. friends. I would be there for him. I know he'd be there for me. Guess what? We're in different countries. One of Tim's other 2 a.m. friends that I know of, a number of them, some are in the United States, Cyprus, the UK, right? They're all over the world, right? There's probably a lot of other places, but I can name a couple of Tim's 2 a.m. friends because I know Tim well enough, which is part of being a 2 a.m. friend, I think, to know the other guys that would have his back. So if Tim needed rallying around, I could call. These guys aren't all my 2 a.m. friends, by the way. They're not. Most of these guys aren't even my friends. But I know who they are from my conversations with Tim, that I could find them, reach out to him and be like, hey, Tim's struggling. He needs help. Right? That's a 2 a.m. friend to me. It's not a question of will I be there, right? And Tim has done this very, I would say, deliberately. I know you pruned your tree. You pruned your tree to the nubs at one point.
It made it very easy for me, right? I got a lot of probably abuse. I say abuse. It was deeper than just giving someone shit.
Yeah, for sure.
I had a choice to either tolerate that and accept it, or make a commitment. And I made a commitment to myself, really, even the life that I wanted to live. And it meant that, there was a time when I didn't really have many roots holding my tree up. I think I probably had one, maybe two. And then, there was a very specific criteria that I had for me to enter into a friendship with somebody. One of them was that I could have clean fun with them. It's key. One of them that I could have meaningful conversations with them. I don't just want it to be surface level. I want to know that person. So anyway, I won't go on, but it's in terms of being deliberate. I think I shared recently, The guys, my 2AM friends, who I don't get to speak to as much, and time just seems to pass by. I reached out to, I think, 4 of them, or 4 very good friends of mine, and said, "Hey, look, I just want to get something on the calendar to speak once a month, right?" And it's amazing. I spoke with one of them on Monday, and that had been 3 weeks since I last spoke to him, and it wrapped around on Monday. And I'm like, oh, fuck, I wish this wasn't happening. I could do work, I could do this, I could. And that happened the 3 weeks prior. And it's going to happen probably every time. But the point, that guy was in Bulgaria. The other guy is in San Diego. Another guy is in Lisbon. Another guy is in LA and Paris. So yeah, and you're right. I'm struggling to keep up with those conversations at times. That's 5. Obviously, there's you and Arthur and other guys as well.
I never got an invite for a call.
You don't need an invite; you just get a call. Well, that's the thing with those guys. I've tried just calling them like I can call you, and we just miss each other because I think those guys were turning into branches, and they were turning into remember when friends, and that didn't feel good to me. Yeah. Because they're the guys that have had that tick a lot of boxes, and I'd love to invest into more. So hence, point I'm making is these guys, different time zones all over the world. So it's possible. I'm in Leeds. There's not one of them that lives in Leeds that's on that list.
Yeah, I think that's important. I think another important distinction here, guys, if you're listening to this, you're like, I don't have any 2AM friends, which most guys don't, not real 2AM friends. You have a guy that might answer your call, but a 2AM friend is one of my 2AM friends, Tim, is a guy that I considered a leaf, but he kept showing up. He kept showing up and kept calling me week after week, month after month, year after year. And it was literally, it wasn't I think at the beginning it was shock. Like, dude, why does this guy keep calling? But he kept showing up and putting deposits into the bank account of our relationship. It wasn't you.
Yeah. I know, I've been me. I was a leaf at one point.
You weren't even a seedling at one point. No, just kidding. But he was a leaf. Then he turned into a branch, and that branch got thicker, and that branch turned into a root that makes me stable. And we have remember when conversations because we have that history. But we also have let's go tear it up conversations. Let's go tear the world up and different things and different beliefs. And it's never judgment. And I literally know that if we were out mountaineering, right, for example, and I was shivering, he would take his jacket off, lie to me and tell me he was roasting warm and put it on me. We've been in that situation, right? We've been in.
Sounds like he's not a smart guy.
I know you. Well, that's what. Like, I know you're 2AM friends, right? You're not the guy I'm asking for jackets.
Do some star jumps. Come on.
But that's that level of brotherhood, right? That comes into it, and just taking care of, just being there. My point is you can do that, right? If you're looking to be a 2AM friend for somebody, you got to keep showing up time and time again, right? Arthur. You show up for Arthur time and time again, and vice versa. It's mutual, right? But there's some people that maybe it's not mutual at the beginning. So you just keep showing up, keep putting deposits in to that relationship. Because you have like unconditional love and unconditional friendship. If it's truly unconditional, then there's no conditions. So you just keep doing it. You keep pouring in, you keep watering that tree, right? And that relationship, you keep making emotional deposits into that relationship. Another example, I got a text message from a guy I knew in high school, right? And we kept in touch, and I would say it's a leaf that kind of that blew away in the wind, right? And I got a text message from him and just said, "Hey man, I haven't talked to you in a long time, but I'm kind of like doing some thinking about life," right? And this is one of the people that, time goes, you have to let him go. And I'll talk about pruning. He's like, and I decided that there's only a few people that I want to keep in my life, and you're one of them. I really like to connect. Happy to fly where you live. You let me know what works for you. Totally out of the blue, right? And then a flood of memories of him came back to me, right? I was honored and shocked that he would have chosen me and even thought of me. But we've had great relationship when we have just the season and left, right? He wasn't on the same path and the same journey I was on of growth. Love talking to him. He's a great guy. But I had to prune my tree, right? In order to make room for other people, for the Tim Matthews, the Arthurs, and everybody else. I'm not going to list everybody's name here. But I had to prune some of those branches that were weighing the tree down. They were sucking the nutrients from the roots and the branches that I wanted to continue to grow. Because there's only so many people you can keep in your circle. There's just only so many. Right? They've done studies, and I can't remember the number. For some reason, 72 pops in my mind, but I think I'm making that up.
I don't think it's a handful.
Yeah.
There's something. Small amount.
Yeah, it's a super small amount. So anyway, I don't know why 72 popped in.
Amelia and I were talking about this a couple of days ago, in fact. And she said she read a study, and it said it's something like 35 hours. It seems a bit small as I'm saying this, but it takes 35 hours for you to form a meaningful relationships with somebody, and that's of 35 hours worth of meaningful like time, as in being away with somebody, spending a few days with somebody, or whatever. It's not just a random message here and there. And that's why it's so easy to make great friends at school, right? Because you're with everybody in university and so on. But yeah, it takes time to, especially if you're going to add some new friend like this guy, right, who's flying out to you. Obviously, you've got a previous relationship there, and it's going to take a commitment from him if he wants to really continue to maintain that relationship and have you and him as 2AM friends. Don't be cheating on me, Doug.
This is a different guy I'm talking about, but I would never cheat on you. Yeah, you threw me off there. So when we look at this, guys, one of the things you want to do, first thing, in my opinion, is take stock, right? What I mean by that is, who are the men that you're constantly talking to, Facebook chatting with, groups you're in fantasy football with, or whatever it may be, guys you're going to the pub or the bars with, etc. Just list them out. Are these guys, the way I would look at this, are these guys that represent your values? Are these guys that are helping you grow? Answer these questions with each person, yes or no. So put this at the top. Are these people, if you have kids, are these men that would be role models for your son or your daughter, right? That's a huge question. Because the answer is no. It's okay. There's every season, right? There's a reason for every season, so to speak. You can have friends that you just, hey, this is the guy I go work out with. This is the guy I go get drinks with, whatever. That's cool. But not with 2AM friends, right? It's different, right? Where are these people in your life? And look at those. Are these people the people that you want to be associated with, right? So I always strive for being, one of the dumbest people in the room, right? And I also want to be with people that are going to push me. So when I look at my friends, I'm looking down this list. Yeah, we have history. But in high school, we used to get high together, or whatever it is that we used to do, just as knucklehead teenagers. I love them. I'd be there for them if they needed me, but they're not on the same path. We've changed, we've grown, or they haven't grown, right? In their own ways. They're still watching, get off work at 5, pounding a 12-pack of Bud Light and watching, reruns of TV shows and just in complete sedation. Now, like this guy that texts me, sometimes they snap out of it, right? Or sometimes they're following. What I didn't know is he's been following. He listens to this podcast, Tim. He's been following from a distance. He just wasn't ready. And that's cool. We all go through different growth phases. But once you've pruned that list and said, hey, look, I'm not going to go to these places, these guys, like or you did, clean fun. Can I have clean fun with these guys? Or do I always have to get high or get drunk or whatever it is you do, right? Can I have clean fun? The answer is no. I'd recommend checking yourself, right, with these people. And then how do you fill that slot? Be that guy that shows up each time. This is the advantage. Guys, if you're listening to this and you're an alumni, it means you've graduated at least our activation method, which is the base level program. You get to show up in the private group. Just show up, right? If you're looking for 2AM friends, you got a whole list of alumni that have stepped to the line time and time again for themselves, for their partners, for their families, for their communities. These are great, solid guys. You should show up for them. If you're not an alumni, you should be one, right? You should go through the activation method because that's a great way to meet guys. But there's also a free group that's it's on Facebook. So that's just easy for everybody. It's an easy entrance point. There's 2,000 men in there who are raising their hand saying, I'm courageous enough to improve myself. It's scary. It's scary to say, hey, I can use some help. You're not broken. You just say, I can use some help. That's a scary thing because every guy could use some help. Every single one. So you have 2,000 men in there. What you got to do is show up regularly, post, be seen, right? There's a couple guys in there that post and comment a lot. And I've started communication with them, right? Just back and forth, little chats here and there, right? Whether it's deliberate or not. Hey, we're sharing the same values. This is cool. Let's just chat a little bit about them, right? Seem like great guys. And who knows? Those guys might go from leaves to branches. Small branches, big branches may turn into roots. I don't know. The point is, guys, where are you on the tree? Are you mostly a leaf for most people you hang out with? Are you mostly a branch? And if you're a branch, are you a strong one? And if the answer is, well, I'm not sure, well, you need to really water that relationship if you want it to be. I can tell you what, if you want to get on Tim's 2AM list, you got to really step up your game, right? You got to be playing at a high level, not because that's Tim's expectation of you, but that's Tim's standard of his life. Right? You also got to be able to show up routinely, every time, on time, right? I don't mean on time like the clock, but on time meaning you get to show up in a big way, in an authentic way, right? So where are you guys? Do you have 2AM friends, and who are they? Are they the 2AM friends you want? Because transparently, I've probably got one, as I say this, one 2AM friend or so that are like, I'm loyal, right? I'm loyal like a Labrador. So that's where our friendship is, our history. But is this somebody that I'm really like, this guy's on the right path? Truthfully, no. Kind of a little bit embarrassed at the way he acts sometimes when we hang out, right? It's just kind of like, he's my friend and I love him. I really do love him, but we don't share the same values, right? So that's even just talking about, that's time to maybe to have a clearing conversation with him, sit down, have a chat, see where he's at. Because maybe there's something I don't know, which I doubt. But at the same time, right, maybe it's just time to move on, right? And not in a bad way. There's nothing wrong with him. We're just on a different path, right? It's just like driving across country, right? I want to go to the beach. He wants to go to the mountains. Nothing wrong with that, but I'm still going to the beach because that's where I'm going. So guys, sit down, do the work, write this out. Write this out. Who are your closest? Your top 10 guys you hang out with or associate with. Tim and I can be on there. If you're listening to this, we're happy to be there with you, right? You are the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with, and you're spending time with us. So hopefully that's a good thing, right? But who are your top 10? And do they meet your list? Where are they on your tree? Are they roots? Are they branches? Are they leaves? No judgment. Nothing wrong with that, right? With the changing of the seasons, the tree changes. But also, in order for that tree to grow and flourish, what do we do when we're in our backyard? We have people come out, or we do it ourselves. So we trim the tree. We trim the branches so it grows taller and bigger. And that's what you get to do with your relationships too, guys. And last but not least, as Tim asked me the question, what is a 2AM friend? You should answer that question yourself. I thought it was a good question. Are you being the 2AM friend that you want for yourself? Tim, any closing remarks?
I just think it's such a valuable topic. It's so easy. We speak to so many guys that have just got so busy with life, thinking that they've got living from the outside in, right? Have to be on that hamster wheel of hustle, telling themselves that, okay, well, when I get to a certain point, 1 million, 2 million, 10 million, whatever, that's when I'll have time, or that's when things will become easier, or that's when, whatever. And before they know it, 10, 15, 20 years has passed them by, and they look around and they don't recognize the people in their life. I mean, they kind of do, but they don't, because time's just passed them by. Yep. And they become a bit of a stranger in their own home, a stranger in their own life. And the only place where they'll really get any recognition is in work. And it reminds me of one of the guys in the Brotherhood. He's in the inner circle, in fact. He said, do you know what, Tim? I was on the golf course looking around, and I was like, well, I pay you, because they all worked for him. or I had business partnerships with them in some way. And he's like, if I wasn't paying you, would you guys still be here with me right now playing golf? He didn't say this, but that's what he thought. And that's because he didn't prioritize this area of his life. And it's huge, especially now during COVID, right? When everyone's feeling alone, and it's really even more when a magnifying glass has been shined on your relationships and your friendships. So yeah, I'd really, really encourage you guys to do this. I think it's a great topic.
So guys, as always, take action, right? You listen to these, take action. This work is going to be so important to you in your future. I can guarantee it. Having other men in your corner that really care about you is huge. Tim's been there for me. All the other guys we've mentioned have been there for me in times that just helped me lift up. It's a way to bounce back 10 times faster, guys, and do it. Guys, if you're new to this podcast or this show, go over to thepowerfulman.com/bonus. That's thepowerfulman.com/bonus. Grab what is there right now is a free training. It's the Reignite cheat sheet. It's awesome. Get it. Gentlemen, if you've been here with us for a while, please go ahead and rate us on whatever you watch this, Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, whatever it is. And the last thing that I want all of you to do is share this with somebody that you want to be your 2AM friend. Just share it. Simple as that, right? Be courageous. If you're scared about it, you're wondering what they're going to think, do it anyway. Because guess what? If they think anything weird about you, easy process of elimination, right? Get them out now, man. Get them out now. All right, gentlemen, that's it for us today on the Powerful Man Show. Have an amazing rest of your day. We'll see you next time.